Okay, and we are live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. And how are you, Scott? How are you doing?
I'm a little bit frazzled today, to be honest.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, a lot of running around, a lot of good things happening, and I'm waiting for a light so we can make this brighter.
yeah.
It's coming from China, and they said, "Oh yeah, you'll have it in 10 days." Oh, great. I said I could wait then. Now it's been a month, and it's still not here.
Yeah,
So I guess we have to learn to be how would you say, patient?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, One second. I'm going to go and try and share this to my Facebook page, and you should as well, um, just so that people know that we are live and will
Mm-hmm.
tune in. Um, That is, if my computer doesn't freeze up, you know how it is. Da,
Mm-hmm.
da, 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 da. I don't know why it's taking so long. But okay, there we go. Now it's coming up. All right, and
Hmm.
going to going to share. Apologies to those people who are watching the playback that you have to go through all of
You have
this.
to endure the technical difficulties. Did that light help any? I don't know if it did or not.
Yeah, a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
so
It's however blinding.
yeah, I know. I'm my little desk light on, so that helps. But it's shining in my eyes. But it's all for
Mhm.
you, the viewer, to to.
That's absolutely right.
I
Absolutely right.
suffer just for you, right?
Exactly.
Um, so, anyways, so we are talking about. Wait, hold on. No, 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 no. I know there are two people that are watching right now. One of them is probably myself. Um, okay, share on. Anyways, so why don't you talk, Scott, while I do this?
Well, you try to figure out the technical aspects of this
Yeah, exactly.
broadcasting from home and
So,
boats and all the rest of that kind of business.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So this week's episode was Mutiny, and the episode's been doing very well. We've gotten a lot of great response. It's a very interesting story, and I think somewhat timely, dealing with all of the protests that are going on right now in this country, and even around the world. So before we move on to talking about other things, how did you feel about this week's episode? Like in terms of that story,
well, the first thing
anything
I
you
want,
wanted to
yeah, the
add?
first thing I want to say is that I want to thank you for we had something else planned, and actually we had it finished. And you said, I have an idea, let me pitch you an idea. And it was a great idea because I had told you the story about Mitchell and the mutiny. And I thought that it was a great idea, and I want to give you full credit for alerting us. And it's done extremely well. So take a bow, Todd. That okay? That's enough. And 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 off we go. As far as the story is concerned, I think anybody that cruises, sails, manages people on a boat, can connect to the story and understand the story really quite well. It's difficult finding just the right people and how to hire the right people, and when you get sloppy, things can really happen and go bad very, very fast. I mean, even having a worker come on your boat and do some day work is a risk to a certain extent.
Yeah,
It's a tough business, and it takes a lot of intuition and savvy and clarity about what people are, who they are, and how they operate. I don't think in today's environment with today's rules and regulations and the way people have been brought up, that you get too many people that are just downright authoritarian, except for maybe the president.
Yeah. Well, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
It doesn't work at all in terms, and for the younger generations, for the millennials, the Gen Z, and all the rest of it, being the super authoritarian it doesn't work. So you have to be, I always looked at it when I hired people. I mean, I ran a boat called Calix, which was 180 foot fed ship with a helicopter on the back, and I had 16 crew on that. And there's a lot of dynamics between 16 people, girls and guys, different ages, etc., the workload, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So it does take some management skills to do this. But this story is a perfect example of management being out to lunch. And when I say that, I mean I was out to lunch.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like, I've had that too with some of the stuff that I've produced, where you are managing a crew and you're dealing with all these different egos. Everybody has their own idea of how things should be done, and everybody thinks that they know better, or it's just a matter of managing people effectively and listening to them, and people will have problems and grievances, and learning. And this is a story of how not to deal with a grievance, which leads to an attempted mutiny, really, which can happen to anybody.
And oh yeah, and I mean, I was acting like I thought I had impunity, and it wasn't sort of this big ego trip. It was just I was in a headspace of, I was working really, really hard and doing these day charters, and I was required to be charming all day, every day. And I mean, that's like being on. It's like going working in a restaurant, because a charter boat essentially is a floating B&B, right? So that was starting to wear on me, and it was exhausting, and it was hot, and it was uncomfortable at times, and we had a lot of different people, and there was all sorts of demands, and all the demands happened to be on the captain. And I didn't see Mitchell's growing animosity towards me at all. And it was my mistake for not recognizing that. And to be perfectly honest, I should have asked him to leave the boat long before that.
Yeah.
But I got kind of lazy because I was busy doing stuff, and the stuff I was doing was, I was playing golf, I was drinking, having a grand time, and just having a ball, basically. Mm-hmm. and sailing and doing all this other kind of stuff, and I was too caught up in my head, and I forgot about the principles that I'd always followed, which were to hire people that were kind, hire people that are self-motivated, and teach them the way you want to do things, so that they understand that their task is that's just their task. After that, they're done.
Yeah.
It's your job, you do your job. This is the way I expect you to do your job. So these are all important, and like everybody, it's management school 101. But I think when you get out on a boat, you're on a beautiful Caribbean island like Nevis, you kind of get a little lazy with stuff like that. So it's a good tale for understanding what not to do.
Yeah, exactly. And if you haven't listened to the episode, you should listen to the episode, just to kind of get a sense of what we're talking about, because it goes bad, very bad. and it involves, punches being thrown, bottles being thrown.
Bottle wasn't thrown. It was in his hand.
Yeah.
He hit me right here with a Coke bottle, and he got another shot with the Coke bottle when he threw it. Okay.
Wow.
And I didn't see it coming.
Wow.
because I didn't even know he had it in his hands. I thought I got it out of his hands, but he picked up another one. And the reason people will go like, okay, you had Coke bottles on your boat? That's glass on a boat? There's a reason, and it's you never want to put glass bottles on a boat to start with because they break, and you get glass in a boat on the floor, it's going to take you forever to get that glass out. Okay, it's really hard to get rid of. But Nevis had a Coca-Cola canning, bottling facility there. And they only bottled. They didn't have cans. So I couldn't get soft drinks. They had all sorts of different soft drinks. And I couldn't get soft drinks from them that wasn't in a bottle.
Yeah.
Now, the hotel could. The hotel got, and in this case, the Ting grapefruit soda, which is delicious and refreshing. And then add the Rothschild's white rum. Rothschild's white rum is made in St. Kitts, which Nevis St. Kitts is one country, and the islands are right next to each other. And you can literally take a tour up in St. Kitts and go through the distillery and the sugarcane. There's one of the few places in the Caribbean that sugarcane fields, except for maybe Cuba, but in the Windward Islands, there's not a lot of sugarcane growing going on. Yeah. And that's about the only place. And it's a Rothschild thing. So
yeah. Well, so going off of the Ting Sting, it's funny your description of that as you're drinking it, but you don't even realize that what you're drinking is very alcoholic until you try and stand up.
Yeah. In my experience of drinking. Which is, I would say that raki, which is a Turkish, like a Turkish ouzo, raki and ouzo, and rum are three drinks that generally are clouded by fruit drinks, etc. Although the raki isn't. Usually you drink that straight up or with water. It's very good, and ouzo is very good, and it's, you could drink, it's very tasty, and you could drink it all day, and it doesn't seem to bother you. It doesn't give you like that sloppy drunk. It seems to all settle in your knees, so that when you do stand up, it's like, whoa, my knees don't work, and down you go for the count.
Yeah,
it comes back to haunt you, but yeah, it's. I haven't said too much about drinking stories and stuff, and I don't want to give people the impression that I was alcoholic running around, although I might have been. But, the Caribbean's full of drinks, full of bars, it's full of places to visit, beach bars like Sonny's, which I mentioned was a very famous and literally made from palm trees that had fallen down on the beach right there. Organized chicken was bought in the store. Salad was bought in the store, and they just made everything else up there.
Yeah,
and beer, and they'd have like rum drinks and stuff like that. It's very rough.
Yeah, I remember going off the topic of the booze. There was one film festival that I was working for that we had as a sponsor, Alizé, which is a fruit-flavored French cognac. I think it's French cognac, or just a fruit-flavored cognac. And you drink that, and it tastes like you're drinking fruit juice. And you think, oh, this is great. This is delicious. It's very sweet. And then after a couple of those, it just hits you because it's hard alcohol. It's intense. And you're just like, whoa.
Yeah. So that's a thing. I mean, the whole drinking thing on boats, especially in the Caribbean, is I think I'll do a podcast just on that.
Yeah.
Eventually. I'll do a story on that because when you're in that kind of heat-knit kind of environment, okay, and I know this is people sailing the South Pacific are sort of all within the same parallels, is that having a beer at 10 o'clock in the morning is nothing.
Yeah.
If you have, 2 beers or 3 beers, you're working on the deck, you're doing some varnish work, or whatever the case may be, you could drink a 6-pack in 86 degrees and 90% humidity in minutes. Okay, what you don't realize is the alcohol is really affecting you,
Yeah.
and that's the secret killer, so to speak.
Yeah. 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 Um, so we talked about that. We talked about mutiny management styles. Was there anything else about that episode? You were talking about Sunnies and dealing with the Four Seasons there. Is that common to be working with a resort like that as a boat captain?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's as the resorts. They don't own the boats. They most of the time they don't own the boats. Some resorts that are a little bit more far out, they like to have that as a service for their guests. And so you're an independent contractor with your boat. People can come and go out on the boat. A lot of times they have catamarans that are sort of like party boats that everybody can go out. Nevis had that. They had a couple of cats there that they load people up and take them out. But my boat was more for the family, and sometimes small groups of 6 to 8 people would come out. They would get together. Oh, and it's a little bit more exclusive. It's a little more upscale. Basically do the same stuff, but it's people don't have an opportunity to sail on a beautiful yacht very often, let alone sail on one in the Caribbean.
Yeah. So if somebody had a boat, that might be an option of them being able to, go to the Caribbean and, partner up with like a resort or a hotel there and make some money.
It it is more it's a difficult thing to do because it's for sailors and people with boats that want to do that kind of thing. It's a plum job, so
Hmm.
there's a big line
Yeah.
of getting involved, and it's honestly it's a young man's sport. It
Mm.
takes a lot of work to keep running a boat 5, 6, 7 days a week, during the season with people coming and going and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So, this is that's a different animal in how to make money from a boat.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. All right. Okay. So that's it for Mutiny. Again, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you take a listen to it. So for next week, we have a special guest, another guest coming up. Why don't you tell us about it, Scott?
yeah, where I interviewed Tim Bomer. He is the yacht. He's a captain, a tugboat captain, and you can find him on YouTube. He's got a big following on YouTube at Tim B at Sea, SEA. And he's got a lot of really interesting ideas. And I think if you're a recreational sailor or just a regular, full-time crew member or sailor or captain, you'll be very interested to hear what he has to say. This is a guy that pushes barges. He's got lots of experience. He is an environmentalist. And it's always nice to talk to a brethren of New York Harbor because back in the day when I was a young man and worked, I also ran tugboats in New York Harbor for a year and a half. So we had a lot of fun. There's a lot to learn. We really get into the weeds on sailing, so it's a good thing to go.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting angle, the fact that he's an environmentalist as well. So I'm kind of excited to hear that one. Um, okay, anything else for this week when we put this episode to bed?
No, no, I don't have anything more to say. I've said an awful lot this
Yeah, yeah,
week.
exactly. Well, if you haven't listened to this week's episode, Mutiny, please go and take a listen to it. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer. or just wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have a chance and you like the episode, make sure you go on and give us a review and subscribe. Does helps us a lot with people discovering the podcast.
And I do want to say, if you're going to be watching this in the when it's posted, if you do have questions, we're monitoring the post of the Facebook Live. If you have questions or you want to make some kind of comments, feel free. We'll pick it up and we'll answer as many as we possibly can.
Yes, and if there's any topics you want us to discuss, and at some point I think we should do a Q&A, so we're saving up questions for that as well. So, all right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, and I will see y'all later. See y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Ciao.